Hey, everyone. My name is Lora Chatman. You are watching the Legendary Focus podcast. And today I really wanted to just hit on the elephant in the room. We are deeply into election season. Also, just came out of the Olympics and are going into football season too. So there's a lot of divide in this country right now. And I feel like it's very important for us to talk about it so that we don't find ourselves being consumed by it. I feel like a lot of us sometimes can lose ourselves when we get into these moments, these seasons of life. And to really hit on that a little bit, I have Deborah A, who's going to join me in this conversation. So let me go ahead and add her in. And we are going to just jump right into this discussion. These are our opinions. They are not a reflection of any other platform that we may be associated with. And we're not telling you what to do. We're just telling you how we think and what has helped us. And at the end, we're definitely going to give some suggestions on what we've used to keep our peace of mind and our sanity anytime we go through these seasons of life, as well as how you don't have to necessarily burn all of your bridges just because you hear that they may have an opinion different than yours. So, Deborah, okay, let's just, like I
Hey,
said, let's just get into it. You know,
yes, I'm
you
excited.
are in a different part of the country than I am. You know, I'm in Atlanta. You're in Alaska, right?
No,
No, I am so
Arizona.
sorry. You're in Arizona,
Yes,
Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, you're in Phoenix. And the other A. You're in Phoenix. I'm in Atlanta. And, even though we're on two completely different sides of the country, I'm sure that you have seen, just as I have seen, the intense conversation and just division that is going on almost anywhere you look, right?
hmm hmm Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I felt it more around race than I did around politics. But I always definitely also felt it in the Olympics. It was really interesting because I'm so glad that you brought that up. Actually, you know what? Let me not jump the gun with that because you might have a flow. I don't want to
No,
mess
go
up with
for
your
it. That's
flow.
actually, yeah, this is part of it.
Okay. Because what I was going to say is like the Olympics was like one of my favorite things. And I realize now that it was one of those times where people really could come together. And there was a sense of oneness. So I use the illustration of, a lot of, let's say, football players, and for them, their football is our soccer, right? So a lot of football players come from like maybe poorer countries where they're not able to maybe make as much money or have the level of training that they want, but they're really, really gifted and talented. And so they'll go play in another country, like in Europe or something.
Hmm.
And in the Olympics, you'll notice that they'll go play for their home country's team. And it's such a cool feeling because you see, like, I can imagine the little old people who don't even like have in the village, who don't even have like a TV, or like they'll go to the nearest place with a TV so that they can go watch and cheer on their countrymen and women. And it's this amazing feeling of like bringing people together. The stories that they tell are like so like heart moving, and just being there like cheering on with other people for your team. And yet that same energy that can be used to really channel oneness, channel unity, channel like coming together can just as much be used to channel division and um, pulling apart, separating from one another and saying, my country is better than yours. And it's just always this really interesting thing. And there's these parts of the Olympics that I absolutely loved. And then these other parts that I would always feel very sad, when I would feel that like nationalism, or what's the other word, patriotism, towards one country against another. And I'm like, well, can't we just have fun enjoying everyone's sportsmanship? And so it's interesting that you bring that up because now when we're coming into the political side, and that one never pulled me as much because I just kind of thought it was all ridiculous. But it's so interesting. It feels also, another example is like the COVID whole situation where it was very polarizing, and people really, it wasn't the saddest part about it wasn't the actual illness, the people who died, or anything to do with the injuries from vaccines or anything, but it was really the way people were kind of showing up for their family members and friends in those times. It was interesting. It was very interesting. So we have an opportunity to look into, like, for me, my indicator is always my body. It's like if I'm starting to feel tense, tight, nervous, and I'm like, wait, and then I'm like, what's wrong? And then I'm trying to like track where that feeling came from. And then I'm like, oh, I was scrolling the feed. Let me stop doing that. Or I was
Yes.
watching this thing. Let me change the stage, whatever it is. Because I know that for me as a human, I really do feel very different when I'm operating in that tight, tense place. It's never going to be my best resource. I'm not as resourceful. I'm not going to say as resourceful things to other people. I'm just not going to be enjoying things as much. So I definitely can notice it when it's in my body, and then I know, okay, that's my cue that divide there is not where I want to go.
Absolutely. You hit on so many good things that I just want to piggyback off of on. In particular, with the Olympics, like you said, it is a moment where you can be brought together. It's like the country came together to support Team USA. At the same time, it's so interesting that the same people who are like, yeah, America, awesome, we're better than you, are the same people who maybe even the same day are like, oh yeah, no, even though they could watch, you could have a bar, which I think is a terrible place for people to gather for so many reasons. If you look into the origins of alcohol and what the word alcohol means, and spirits, what that means, that's not even hidden at all. But anyways, you're not yourself typically when you're at a bar and you're watching something. And so you could be watching these the Olympics, everybody's cheering together, and then a commercial comes and it's a political commercial. And then next thing you know, everyone starts arguing. Oh, but then Olympics comes back on and then everyone starts cheering. You're dictating your life based off of what you consume and what you are told, how you are told to think. If you're told, patriotism, you're going to feel like a patriot. Or if you're told that you need to hate this person because they're doing X, Y, and Z, then you're going to hate that person. And it's a roller coaster of emotions. And then before you know it, you lose sight of yourself. And I feel like that's the biggest problem that we have right now, even with everything else that you mentioned with the outbreak. I don't even like to call it a pandemic. There's another word I like to call, but I will save that to myself. I'll keep that to myself. But the 2020 to 2023, really, that whole time frame, it really in 2020 and 2021, you saw it. We were told to distrust each other. And it was very sad. I saw people in relationships who, literally left the house and left their partner to suffer by themselves because they didn't want to get sick. I don't believe in that. I'm married. I took a vow in sickness and health. So, in that sickness, you can help people out. I've saw people who did help each other out. And when you took care of your body, you didn't get sick. Just like when you take some care of someone with the flu, you don't always get sick. There's a lot of things that you can do, but there you saw that there was a big divide in the people who were looking at holistic and natural ways on staying healthy versus people who wanted to, listen to what was being told to them through news and, public broadcasting, which, broadcasting, casting spells, programming, all of that shows that you are instilling a thought pattern into somebody else that may not be your own. And so we saw the divide and the and the thinking. There are people I know today who still don't trust being around other people. They still don't trust hugs. They still, like we had people who, you might steal someone's food. That was almost like a sign of community, like sharing food with each other. And now there's like, ooh, I can't. You took a bite of someone else. What? Ew, you're gonna get sick. And it's like, dude, you do realize that exposing yourself to germs is what makes your immune system stronger. If you don't ever expose yourself to anything, you're gonna have the weakest immune system, and everything is always gonna make you sick. So, and we see that. But even now, if you tell somebody that, hey, research shows that a lot of those shots, and they were actually shedding the virus. They were actually making other people get sick, and those were causing some deaths and heart failures, and there's research to show this. But you can't say that, or else, you're demonized. And so now it's like that mentality is in politics too. You could say something, you could even point out evidence to it, or where someone can find evidence to it. But instantly, if it goes against the narrative that is broadcast from the programming they're receiving, then they reject it. And I feel like this rejection of thinking for yourself, and this rejection of researching for yourself, it's dangerous. They say ignorance is bliss, but in day-to-day life, it is clearly very, very dangerous. And I feel like we as a society, as Americans, as humans, because this goes beyond borders, we as humans need to get back to actually thinking for ourselves
Mhm.
and not getting wrapped up in hype, not
Mhm.
getting wrapped up. Even, someone could say being mindful, which goes to, everyone's like being very mindful, being demure. You want to, it's trendy. Even meditation is trendy, manifesting is trendy, but let's not do things because of trends. Let's do things because you actually want to do something. If you support somebody, support them because you actually know about them, not just you read a couple of things that looked good, but you actually agree with them. And especially with politics, let's understand how not just you put a ballot in, but let's understand how the electoral college vote actually works. Like let's look at things for what they are, because it's called a popular vote for a reason. When the people vote, that's just a popular vote. This is just a glorified, popularity contest.
Mhm.
The real people who are running things, we don't vote for. We never have. So why do we have to hate each other based off of something that we didn't even set this up? It's left wing, right wing, two wings of the same bird.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, to me, just what you said is a perfect way to sum it up. Two wings of the same bird. It's the us versus them mentality or mindset is perpetuated on so many levels, and it's really interesting because it's so pervasive in our culture and our society, and it takes a while to start to see, wow, every layer of the life that I've been exposed to and believed was mine. Really, there's a lot of it that I never had anything to do with. And it's not a judgment. I mean, we're all conditioned a certain way. I mean, very few of us have had the privilege um, that you've had of being able to be unschooled or homeschooled and not
Right.
have to go through all of that conditioning and programming from an early age all the way through. So it takes a while sometimes for us to really, peel back those layers. And I think one of the things that I would say about that is really being patient with ourselves, because how many times in a day I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember when I used to do that. Now I'm like, but I remember when I was doing that. So can I really be either upset at the other person or upset at myself. No, I try my best to just understand that everyone's doing the best they can. Am I perfect at that? No, but that is my mantra, and that's what I do my best to live by, and know that with these kinds of conversations that you and I are having right now, that's how we start to connect back to our own knowingness, or at least consider it and not just swallow wholesale what somebody else is pitching us.
Swallow wholesale what someone else is pitching us. I love that. I love that. That was beautifully put. Because that's really what we're doing. And it's like, I relate a lot of things back to marketing. Maybe it's because I have that, the marketing background, doing experiential marketing for 10 plus years. I've seen how you have these big corporations and the tactics that they use in order to get people to work with them, to consume them, to trust them. And a lot of it is, how do we get a catchy slogan? How do we get a good hook? A little earworm that's gonna dig its way in there and make it so that you feel, whenever you think I want to do X, Y, and Z, you think of that company. It's like back in I can't remember what year it was, many decades ago. Cornflakes, I believe it was. They had a slogan talking about how breakfast was the most important meal of the day. They made that up. They made that up. How many of us are like, yeah, breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Dude, no, it's not. You could fast through breakfast and eat at lunch and be fine and have more energy. Like, weighing yourself down scientifically does not even equal doing, putting yourself in the best position to have a wonderful day. Or milk, it does the body good. Whereas now it's showing that a lot of people are lactose intolerant and that milk is not really great for you. So these things, doctors used to recommend cigarettes. So you make something look good, you dress it up, give it a sexy title, a sexy slogan, and bam, people eat it up, just like cornflakes. So I feel like we have to be aware that just because something looks good, that we don't instantly think that's good for us. It's like marketing, anybody can get a pretty logo or a nice graphic, a catchy jingle, uh, put billions of dollars towards their marketing campaign. So you see them everywhere you go. We all know McDonald's does not make the best burger in the world, but there's a McDonald's on almost every corner, So it's one of those things where we have to ask ourselves, all right, are we liking something or are we saying something because we truly believe it? Or is it just because we heard it more than 7 times or saw it 7 times?
I really love that connection, because I think it's good. It's a really good connection, because I think a lot of people are very skeptical about marketing these days, and it's harder to, anybody who's a service provider and does marketing knows it's harder and harder and harder to get people to actually, pay them attention or buy something, because there's this like jaded feeling of, oh, here's something to sell. So people have a little bit more alertness or a little bit more skepticism when it comes to marketing and ads. And it's like, great, take that skill that you've developed over being oversaturated and apply that to these other areas where you're seeing, a lot of things that are being, because it's one and the same. There's these iconic pictures that are being taken of people, and it's this like image, and I'm like, that is so like staged. You can see how like staged it is, but it's supposed to look like, it's supposed to be like what really happened. No. And so we need to like understand that too is marketing. And and to be aware of that, because, and I think it's sad because on the one hand, like marketing can really be such an amazing tool for good, and really helping people to understand, educate people, and, or at least, maybe educate's not the right word, but at least like share information with people. So inform people of things that maybe they didn't know that are really important for them to know. Like that's a good thing. And like any good thing, it can also be misused to just get people to turn off. So I'm not saying marketing is bad. I know Laura's not saying marketing is bad, but it's just more so like, take that same skepticism that you have towards certain ads and things where people are promising you to make, 30K in 30 days, something like that, and just move that skepticism over to these other areas that maybe you're not thinking about, like the Olympics, like your sports team, like whatever politics is going on, and just have that same kind of neutral step back and like, is this really all, am I really seeing this clearly? And again, not saying that we're not trying to tell you how to think or what to do. It's more just encouraging you to really look with a little bit more giving a little bit more attention to, is this really aligned with me? And that's why I said, like, for me, I notice it in my body usually first. Like I won't really think about it consciously first. I'll just feel something and then I'll be like, wait, why am I feeling like this? Why did I get tight all of a sudden? Why is my, and then I start to backtrack. What was I just reading, watching? What was coming into my system? Because there's a thought there that I'm realizing is creating that constriction in my body.
Ooh. Okay, so I want to touch on this too. Like when you talk about where you feel it in your body, because I know sometimes for me, like I might stop breathing, my jaw might clench, my shoulders might tense. Uh, I'll feel it in my gut. Like that weird feeling you get in your stomach when you read something. I might notice like my face. I find it interesting. Like my husband can't really lie to me if he's not feeling something. If he doesn't like something, it shows clearly on his face. Like it's this look of disgust that comes up. And I noticed that on him because we can't see our own face. That's why mirrors are awesome. And when I say mirrors, I mean people in your life who can show you who you are and what you're doing. So I'm like my husband's mirror. And so anytime he does not like something, he'll show it on his face. And then he can even try to be like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. I'm like, you don't have to lie, baby. It's okay. You don't like it. It's fine. But I feel
Oh,
like
it's
we need to
funny.
do that with ourselves too. Like we have to check in and really ask ourselves, what is that reaction that we're getting? Because our bodies, we're either responding or reacting. And generally, a reaction in your body is felt before a response is given. And I feel like the response is the more conscious effort of displaying what it is that you want. The reaction is the I don't want to even say like animalistic, but it's that
Automatic.
instinctive. It's the instinctive feeling. That's why they say do a gut check. If you're about to make an important decision, do a gut check. What does your gut tell you? It's usually the first thought that comes to your mind. Also, when you're training yourself to listen more to your intuition, and get connected to yourself, the first thought that usually comes to mind without you having to try to explain it into, as to why it's there, that's usually your truth. And so being able to check those and be honest with yourself about them. And a way to practice this, what I found is if I practice it with little things, so then I can see what the answer is. So then when a big question comes up, I know how to recognize the answer that is within instead of relying on what other people are telling me I should do or how I should think.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because I was always the person who would ask like 5 different people what they thought I should do.
Same.
And
I
then be
used to do
mad
that.
because none of them told me what I knew I should do inside of me. It was
And so you
hilarious.
ask somebody else, waiting
Yes,
to
it
get the
was
answer.
hilarious, right? But it was like I needed to go through that process, not anymore, but back then I needed to go through that process to be like, oh, I know what I should do. I'm just mad that they didn't confirm that for me, you know? And so you do, I joke with that because it's like, you do know what you want to do or what is correct for you to do in that moment. You do know. And maybe that's how you start, is you ask for someone else's opinion and then notice how you're feeling about what they responded. Because that'll usually give you a clue, like, oh, either you're like, oh, good, they said what I thought, or oh man, they don't know what they're talking about. Like that'll tell you.
Yeah, you can do the same with flipping a coin. Like you can take a
Yes.
coin, say, call heads or tails for yes or no. And then when you flip it and you see what the result is, if you're disappointed, if the first feeling you feel is disappointment when you see the answer, then it tells you, or if you're excited, it tells you what it is that you really, really wanted. And I feel like
Mhm.
those desires within us, if we can start following those more, then we're going to be in more alignment with who we truly are. And then we're going to be happier. It's the same thing with, like I said before, I do a lot of marketing for people and come up with the brand strategies. And a lot of times when people tell me what they want to do, they have this idea. They're just really looking, like you said, for confirmation that
Mhm.
what they want to do is right or it's a good idea. I'm never going to tell someone, that's a good idea or a bad idea. I like to help them come to their own conclusions and say the thing that they're really thinking. Because when they can say it out loud, sometimes that's the hardest part for us to do, is to really say
Mhm.
our opinions. And the more we can get around people who do not demonize us for having an original thought, for having an opinion, even if it's contradicting to what they believe, because we all are going to have different opinions because we all have different perspectives.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly believe that we all come from one source, and that source decided, you know what? I want to break myself off into all these little souls so that I can experience myself, because nobody wants to be just alone. That's why we get into groups, because nobody likes being alone, not even Source. That's why Source made itself into many, so that it can have these different perspectives, have all these different experiences, and then could experience itself through the eyes of various, angles, various perspectives. And if we can embrace that as beautiful, just like we embrace watching a movie and how you have all types of different characters,
Yeah.
the different characters make the movie good. If we had a movie where everybody was the exact same, we wouldn't watch it. It would be boring. We wouldn't read a book like that either. It would get, everyone cannot be the same, nor should they. And I feel like we're moving into this society, like it's shaping into this thing where being yourself or not thinking like everybody else is becoming more rare. And it's almost
Mhm.
like people are feeling like the need to apologize if they don't think like the majority. And it's not even the majority, it's whoever has the biggest marketing budgets to get their view out there the loudest. Everyone else kind of
Mhm.
falls in line with that source. So
Mhm.
I definitely feel like getting around more people who celebrate you for thinking, who celebrate you for diving into what you really want in life. It's not selfish to go within and ask yourself, do I really prefer this? Who am I? Like, really ask yourself, who am I? What do I want? And then finding ways to get that result. The result may not come from electing somebody outside of you. The result may come from you choosing to do something in your life constructive that can give you results now, instead of waiting months and months to see something and then waiting years and years hoping to get a result and then waiting more years if that result didn't happen. So instead of prolonging your suffering, I think we all could benefit from asking ourselves, what do we not like in our life right now? How can we change it? How can we make it better? What do we like in our life right now? How can we prolong it? How can we expand on that?
Mm. I really like that. And I wanted to throw in there that there is hope because we're in a period of time of global transition. And
Mm,
so that's a lot
yeah.
of what I focus on, is kind of preparing people for that. Like, how do we find our way? How do we navigate these periods where things are changing? And I guess I say that there's hope because the old ways that were like very, whether it was like colonialism or like, imposing one group imposed their views on everyone else, or everyone needed to conform to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Those days are changing, and we're in this period now where we're moving into an era where our safety comes from our true self knowledge and our ability to embrace our sovereignty and our ability to embrace our uniqueness and express from there. And so we're already starting to see it where, you know, there's a reason why that phrase, be your authentic self, is so popular, is because there is truth to the fact that you'll never have competition if you're being yourself because there's no one else other than you, right? And so
Yes.
this is like coming full circle to your message and my message, which is that on the other side, like, yes, it's hard, it's scary, it's stressful, and I want to really encourage you not to shame yourself or beat yourself up if you've noticed yourself kind of following some of these trends that we've shared today, but more so like it's an opportunity. You get to explore. This is like a brand new adventure that no one can guide you on. Like it's your adventure. Like, yes, you can have some support and guidance from people like me and Laura, but it's your adventure to take. You get to say where you want to go. You get to explore this and get to really step into your own skin. And every time I've seen thousands of people share their experiences after starting to really honor what was inside of them instead of muting it and just following what others, you know, whether it was the mass media or family or whatever it was that was on the exterior was trying to influence them in. And they're always happy. I've yet to hear a person say, yeah, I tried to be my authentic self and now like I'm so depressed, because like it's true. Life can be harder at times depending on the level of awareness of the people around you. Certain things may get harder, but you will always feel better because when you're connecting to the uniqueness, the masterpiece that is you, there's nothing that compares to that. That's what you're here to experience. That's that coming back to that oneness and being able to experience
Mm-hmm.
yourself in this unique individuation that there's no other duplicate of. So yeah, I want to just encourage you to have compassion with yourself and see it if possible, if it inspires you. If it doesn't, then throw it out. But if it inspires you, see it as an adventure that you get to go on that's unique to you. And yeah, from what I've seen, I can assure you that even though I may not know you personally right now, that you will gain so much from really going on that adventure, going on that journey to really get to know who is my authentic self. Because I can't be him or her or them if I don't know who that is. I need to know who that is so that I can be that person. And so that's the journey that we all are gifted the opportunity to take, and no one else can take it for us.
Mm-mm. It's an inside job, just like, oh, that was so beautiful. And it really does remind me that when it comes to saving ourselves, you know, everyone wants a savior. They're always looking for someone to come and sweep them up and make everything better. But that savior is within. Like I said, how I believe about the one source, I also wholeheartedly believe and have researched this as well, that God is within. It is part of us. It is in us. It is us. And so because of that, if we allow ourselves to really get still and listen and to let that inner light shine forth, then we always will have that joy. You're so right. You're never going to regret being who you truly are, even if somebody doesn't like you, even if you lose a friend. It does not mean that you were wrong. It just means that the people who are aligned with you now have space to enter into your life.
Yes.
So,
I will
yeah.
say one of the side effects of getting to know who you really are is you don't realize how much energy you were losing trying to keep up appearances. It's like, it's amazing. You're like, what? I was carrying all of that every day. I didn't even know I was carrying that much weight. And once you can take that weight off lovingly and gently, bless and release that weight, It's
Hmm.
so amazing how much more energy you have to throw into things that you really truly do love and are passionate about.
Yes. The moment you can show who you truly are is the same moment that you can stop worrying about being an imposter. So that imposter syndrome, it just falls away. It just makes life so much
Mm,
easier. And not only is life a lot easier and happier, we have to remind ourselves that dis-ease, disease is dis-ease, you not being at ease. So anything that is not bringing you peace of mind, it's okay to shut it out. It's okay to see how you can remove it. It's okay, like you said, oh, I feel it in my body. I don't like how that feels. Let me remove myself from this conversation. Let me turn off that TV. Let me, decide, let me drive down a different road so I don't have to see this billboard every time I go down this way. Let me not take that call from that person who I know is going to just start something. It's okay for us to say no. And we live in a world that's so connected, which is beautiful. I feel like this whole conversation has also been a great highlight to polarity. Anything that can be used for good can be used for bad. It's just about everything is tools. And we have to remind ourselves that when you have a tool, you are to use it, not letting it use you.
mhm,
And so even though we are instantly connected to people on social media, through email, through phones, texts, all of that does not mean we have to make ourselves available to those sources 24/7.
mhm,
I had to learn just because somebody calls me does not mean I have to pick up,
mhm,
especially if I'm in the middle of doing something. you know, it's okay to put your phone on silent. It's okay to have actual off hours where you're not doing work, where you're not being disturbed by outside people, where you just have time to be with your family and then time to just be with yourself. Because it's okay also to block your family out. And I know that sounds weird, but we as humans have to realize that we must get in touch with ourselves because if you want any change to happen in the world, it has to happen within first.
mhm.
Anything that we don't like outside external of us is usually something that internal there's a spark of something that we have now the opportunity to acknowledge and to adjust to. I don't like to say the word fix because we're not broken. We're just evolving and we're getting back in alignment with who we truly want to be. So every time we see something that agitates us, that irks us, grinds our gears, it's an opportunity for us to look in ourselves, see where we exhibit that in our own lives, even if it's not external, but something internally that we've been doing, then it gives us the opportunity to morph into who we actually are, to embody that truer self of us. Um, yeah.
Or, or if I may interject,
Oh,
allow,
allow,
because
yes.
sometimes the things we're most embarrassed by, I mean, this is the paradox and the miracle of personal development and transformational work is that oftentimes the things that we struggle with the most and we're trying to align ourselves with it's like once we accept those parts of ourselves that are embarrassing or we've kept
Yep.
hidden, it's amazing how things shift in ways that we couldn't even imagine or expect. That's the gift.
Mhm.
So I always encourage people, like if it's feeling like resistance is a gift, and to just say, okay, I'm feeling resistant. I can accept the resistance in me in this moment. It's amazing how that shifts things. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to say it shifts it into no resistance or into more resistance. It depends. But the point is that you feel differently about yourself when you can accept all those things about yourself, even the ones that you were, embarrassed by.
Yeah. I call it, it's the clarity through contrast. And when you have that contrast that pops up into your life, you're able to instantly see what you prefer. And that's why I named my business Legendary Focus, because I feel like when we shift our focus towards more of what we want versus less of what we don't want, then we can have legendary lives.
Yeah.
And there's this there's this stigma almost on saying, "Oh, I don't like that." But it doesn't have to mean like, "Oh, I'm condemning something." It just means I don't prefer. I feel like if we start saying hate or I don't like and change it to prefer, just shifting the language around it, one, it helps us be less judgmental because then it opens up the window of, okay, well, what do you prefer? And just real story for me, I used to not like salesy people. Like it irked me when I'd see people who are constantly selling their services and constantly, talking about what they did. And it was like every conversation ended in a call to action. And I didn't like that. It bugged me to no end. And I had to get real with myself. And I realized I didn't like it before when I would see it in other people because a side of me was envious is the word I'm going to use. It may not be the exact word, but that's the word that's coming to mind. I was envious of the fact that they were bold enough to say what they wanted, that they were confident enough in what they did, that they didn't care what area they were in, what the situation was. They were going to say, this is who I am, this is what I do. That confidence, I didn't have it at the time. And so it bugged me. And it wasn't that I hated sales. It was that I yearned in my own life to feel confident enough to believe in what I did enough to tell people what I do. And then when I was able to come to that realization, the judgmentalness of people who were promoting themselves went away. And I saw then what I needed to work on in myself, what I not needed to, what I wanted to work on in myself in order to feel more confident and bold and to become that person who I yearn to be. And so I feel like if we just can get to the root of it, like, what is it that you prefer? And then where in your life, like, go 3 levels deep. It's not that I didn't like sales. It's not that I didn't like that they were talking about themselves. It was that I didn't like that I was too scared to talk about my own self, that I didn't believe in myself enough to talk about myself when it wasn't brought up. That I didn't think I was worthy of steering a conversation, because at all times we are allowed to make up this game called life. Like, there are no rules. When you get around other people, it's no, this person's going to speak, and then this person's going to speak, and then that person's going to speak. And we choose who's going to speak based on who has the most money in the bank. That's not how the world works. It's all improv. That's why I loved acting so much, because it's literally, you're making it up as you go. And so when you get confident in yourself, then you step into the power position of being able to steer conversations, of being able to affect change, and being able to manifest your desires and your dreams. Yeah.
Well said.
That just came to me.
That's well said. Thank you.
So I think that we've given a lot of food for thought, and I even got something like, that's why I love having conversations like this. It always starts with a, just off camera, man, wouldn't it be interesting if we're talking about something and I feel like other people could learn from this. And then in the intention of wanting to bring inspiring conversation to others, I'm always inspired by the conversation myself, to see new things. And because, like I said, we're all mirrors. Anything that anyone else needs, we need as well at some level in our life. So I am thankful for you sharing this conversation with me, Deborah. I could not have thought of this by myself. You definitely are someone I love bouncing ideas off of, which is why you all will see a lot of her popping up from this podcast. And if you ever want to be a guest as well, you can always send me a message at Lora, Lora, at legendaryfocus.com. And with the subject line podcast guest, and just let me know what you'd like to talk about in the body of the email. But Deborah, before we hop off here, I know we hinted a little bit about what you do, but if you could just, briefly remind the audience what you do, your expertise, and how people can find you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yes, I'm a holistic leadership mentor, and my specialty is helping individuals and organizations create genuine psychological safety and trust. So whether it's at home in your marriage or with your kids, or at work with your employees or your boss, This is something that I specialize in, and I do my best to make it very enjoyable. So I use human design, gene keys, and parts work. Those are some of the tools that I use. So if you'd like to connect with me, it's the real Deborah A. So, and Deborah spelled Deborah. And so that's at Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deborah. And if any of you would like to partake in any of the marketing courses and just business alignment courses that I have coming up, I have a free masterclass that I do twice a month. You can find out more information about that at feelgoodfame.com. Depending on when this airs, we either have one on Wednesday or on a Tuesday evening. So definitely check out the website to see the exact date. We have a course coming up in October. That's going to be 6 weeks. For any of that information, I'll drop it in the comment section and the description section of this video. But with that, thank you all for joining us. Share your comments, your opinions, your views. Share this video if you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to get someone else's opinion on it as well. And with that, be blessed, stay legendary. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
God bless.